Are you seeking a better way to accelerate your sales, to scale your business, to live a life with no limits? Accelerate Sales Podcast features global experts who have cracked the code to recurring revenues with proven sales systems and get you on the fast track to scaling. Now let's accelerate your sales with today's episode.
Hello to the Accelerate Sales Solo Podcast, episode number 370. Today's topic is 7 mistakes to avoid when scaling. You will learn what the 7 are and the resources to help you. If it's your first time and you love what you hear, please subscribe. If you're a regular, thanks for your support. Always appreciate those reviews. And please check out past shows on your favorite platform. Just search Accelerate Sales and don't forget to check out those interview shows. Scaling is very important because of the compounding of money, right? It's so risky running your own business. Like, I know that you can scale it without you, but most of us are involved in our businesses. And what we want to do is draw out cash so that we can reduce the risk of us owning our own business. And the best way to do that quickly is to scale fast, right? The quicker you scale, the less risk. So why can I talk to you about the 7 mistakes to avoid when scaling? Because I've made many of them. I've scaled businesses in corporate from 0 to 300 million in 2 years in one particular role. I've scaled my own cloud consulting business to 30 people, only to find out that we'd picked the wrong horse, the wrong platform. Also spent 5 years with a business partner struggling to scale the business before we did and exited in 2019. So I have my battle scars and I want to help you to avoid them. And there is, like I said, an opportunity cost. The quicker you can scale, the quicker you can compound that cash outside of the business. So let's go through number 1, in love with your platform. We were in love with a platform that we used to sell called Podio, P-O-D-I-O. It's still around, but we thought that everyone else should be in love with it as well. We absolutely drank the Kool-Aid and we were, fanatical about it. And we focused so much on the features and everything that it should do, and we forgot about the result that the client wanted, right? People generally only use 20% of the feature set to get the result that they want. You think about a platform that you're not selling, but you're using at the moment, it's probably the same thing. And what you may be doing is overcomplicating demos and you get people overwhelmed or disinterested. Ever done that? I think you might have, because I know I certainly did. And what it means you lose sales, and to lose sales, that means revenue and cash to really de-risk that business. So what could you cut out of your demos today? So that's in love with your product. Number 2 is the inability to let go. And you're probably all nodding when I said this. Everyone, I think, struggles with this, and it's probably not the first time you've heard it. But just because you should do something doesn't mean you should. And I tell my team, if I'm doing something that they're capable of, even if they're not as good as me, I ask them to get the hell out of there, right? And there's only a few things as an owner that you can only do. That's set the strategy and be the face of the business. And I love the Franklin Covey analogy. I'll get that right. You can just go and search it up, the Big Rocks, Franklin Covey. And they talk about doing the big rocks first, so then you don't have time for everything else. And I think that's a great example. And I'll give you an example is where I had a GM, a highly competent sales guy, right? And he wanted to meddle in my space, which was sales. I was the sales director. So instead of fighting him over it, I just redirected his attention. I showed him that there was huge issues in distribution and he should maybe spend a bit of time there. I didn't see him for another 6 months. It was fantastic. So what about you? What can you let go of today? So number 7 is mistiming hiring. I once had a boss that said you should always be hiring, and to be honest, I didn't really understand what he said. But what I realized later on is that you should be always looking for talent, because talent, when you actually need the talent, it's normally too late, right? How many times you've been desperate, you've taken someone on and it hasn't worked out because you've rushed because you needed someone in the seat, right? So what process can you set up so that you can always be hiring? So that's number 3. So far we've covered 3: in love with your platform, inability to let go, and mistiming hiring. But before we continue with the others, I'd like to talk to you about leadjet.io. If you ever looked at a LinkedIn profile and had to manually put the information in, or you have all these messages in your LinkedIn, but they're not actually in your sales CRM, you don't have to worry about that anymore. LeadJet automatically does that for you, and it's across some of the biggest platforms: Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, copper, etc. But why not check it out for yourself? Just go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/lead gen and start your 14-day trial with no credit cards required. So number 4, not knowing your numbers. At Coca-Cola, we always laughed, or we had a bit of a laugh saying that numbers normally came before people. We were very fastidious about our numbers. We'd been around for 150 years, but we're also the franchisee, right? So we're a bit like you, where the vendor or the platform, so that was the Coke company, they owned the product and they did the marketing, and then we did everything else, and we had all the capital, right? So we had the employees, we had all the physical capital, so we needed to get a return. And to be honest, that's very similar to you and your business. So do you have a rolling profit and loss? Do you look at it weekly? Do you review your cost base? Do you keep a clean P&L, because you should always be ready for sale? And do you run scenarios on your pricing to see what you could do by adjusting your pricing versus all of the costs of bringing on new clients? And as I said, you should always run it in preparation for the sale, regardless if that happens or not. And to be honest, knowing your numbers leads to better action. And you might have a business model which is, making you work hard rather than smart. So getting the right business model will help. So what could you change in your business model today to help you better know your numbers, and most importantly, help you scale faster? So number 5 is customized. Right? You start your business as high touch, like we all do. The example was Airbnb, where they talk about, how they did things that don't scale, and I get that. But at some point, you actually do, certainly when you get product market fit, you need to scale your business. You need to streamline it, and you need to look at your core processes and see how long they take, and what can you reduce. What can you reduce in them? In particular, save labor, right? Which is normally the biggest cost to our businesses. And what you don't want to do is, as you scale, you grow more labor, which is sometimes more headaches, not always, but sometimes, but also it's reducing your margin or keeping your margin the same, which you don't want. And to be honest, it's very hard to automate it if things aren't standardized. So you can play the custom game, which is fine, but just make sure that you're charging accordingly, which most of us can't. So what could you standardize today? So number 6, selling one-to-one. I still believe you're the best person to sell the business, right? But you don't have to do all the tasks. So you can get some sales admin support in to help you with that. If you want to, if you're in a position where that's not the case, come reach out to me, because I'm very good at solving that. But you've got that right. But now you're still selling one-to-one, right? That's the next element to scaling your sales. And look for strategic partners where they've already got the clients maybe, or they're spending marketing to acquire them, which is going to lower your cost to serve. An example is, I had a past client of mine where we did some work with private equity firms. He was selling a finance platform, worked brilliantly for the firm. They had 40 people in their stable of company portfolio. He did a webinar to all 40, so then he could actually sell one-to-many rather than one-to-one. It worked brilliantly. So what partner could you approach to do a similar thing? Last but not least is number 7, serving everyone. And at the start, we all, serve everyone to get cash in the business. I get it, right? We've all done it, and that's completely fine. And your vendor or your platform partner sends you prospects from all over the place, right? All different verticals, and you want to impress them by doing it, so you're building credibility with them, so the salespeople notice you. But you also want the cash, right? But to be honest, you're the highest paid person in the business. You're normally doing sales, so if you're unqualifying a lot, it becomes very expensive and hard to scale. And also, you're probably not getting the attention of the sales team, right? Because you look like everybody else, and they're probably just going to give you geography-based clients, which can be very restrictive. So by automating the vendor leads and building a niche, you are then known for someone, right? And they will come seek you. But also you'll have case studies, so it makes it easier to sell and close deals. You'll have the industry knowledge. So for example, we were agencies when we were a copper partner, and then copper, we knew that was a great vertical for them. And then people within the sales team fed us more leads because they knew that that's what we doubled down on. So what patterns are you seeing in your targeting as a vertical that you could turn to? So let's quickly summarize. We had the first one was in love with your platform. The second was inability to let go. The third was mistiming hiring. The fourth was not knowing your numbers. Fifth, customization or customize. Six, selling to one-to-one. And number 7, last but not least, serving everyone. So look across the 7 mistakes and find one action that you can implement today. If you need help in scaling, I'm happy to talk to you, paulhigginsmentoring.com. And also go to episode 366, where I talk about the 4 things to get right when selling your business, which also relates to this scaling. You can get all the links in the show notes at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast, episode 370, or on the app that you're listening to now. I recommend the Pocket Cast app. It's a great one. They don't sponsor me, but I think it's great anyway. Please follow me on LinkedIn. If you know someone interested in scaling faster and they're a cloud consultant partner, please share it with them. And finally, please take action to accelerate your sales.
I'm fired up after today's episode. What about you? But hey, before you go, learning is just one piece of the puzzle. Now it's time to put today's strategy into action. Head over now to today's show page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast and share how you'll put it into action. Be sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe, rate, and review the show. Tell me what your favorite episode is. And don't wait 1 minute more to gain access to your pulse check at paulhigginsmentoring.com. This could be the difference between struggling to get more leads and making this next quarter your best one yet.